For years, we've been attempting to gather together the key economic development entities in the state to plan our future. Certainly today, we have a major representation of that leadership here for this meeting. To put my comments in perspective and to understand it's important to understand what we represent as part of the economic development team in Florida. We are the state's spaceport authority, but we also see the state's economic development strength through the lens of the aerospace industry and its robust supply chain and workforce, which today represents approximately $17 billion of economic value to the state, supported by over 11,000 companies in the supply chain, which goes pretty deep, and some 123,000 workers statewide in that supply chain. It's also supported by a strong educational network of public and private training institutions which produce the talent that feeds this industry. Space Florida's role in that is to work with the state's economic development regions to develop a portfolio of talent, innovation, and manufacturing clusters that Florida can call national, or allow us to call Florida a national or global leader. Nowhere is that goal more effectively realized than in the Central Florida region. Here we have leveraged the strengths of key academic anchors in all four corners of the region, aerospace research, development, simulation and modeling, and advanced manufacturing capabilities to proudly call the Central Florida region an aerospace and innovation cluster that has caught the eye of advanced technology and aerospace companies worldwide. And we have seen the effects of that growth in attraction and expansion of such companies as Boeing, with its next generation CST-100 spacecraft manufacturing here at the Cape, Embraer, with its aircraft manufacturing expansions here in the region, as well as the establishment of its first ever Advanced Design and Engineering Center outside of Brazil, or with similar expansions and thriving growth of Lockheed Martin in Orlando, Grumman Corporation, ULA, Raytheon, Honeywell, and I could go on, as well as many others in the aerospace supply chain, who see the region as a place to do aerospace business and thrive. But times are changing, and even though we have enjoyed over 50 years of space and aerospace heritage for this region and in Florida, our rich legacy and past are no guarantees for our success in the future. We must continue to innovate, change, move with the times, and at all times face the market. For our region, we must continue to invest in an interconnected multimodal trade and transportation system that links Florida's regions and enables Florida's innovation and business clusters to serve global markets. This includes port-to-port concepts, whether east to west from Port Canaveral to Tampa, or north to south from Jacksonville through our region to Miami, or our short-haul rail systems to connect the last mile business of passengers and freight, including bulk cargo, to ensure that we are a shipping region of choice for goods and services from Latin America, Europe, and Asia to U.S. markets, and from Florida producers to the global export markets worldwide. Florida is clearly headed in the right direction, and with your help, has been making key investments in its ports, airports, and seaports. And we are standing today in one of the finest examples of sound investment and management strategies for a world-class seaport operation. John Walsh is a superb leader who can ensure that we stay on the right path in the next 50 years. And John, thank you for hosting us today in this beautiful showcase port. We are also headed, though, in the right direction with key investments in links and in Sunrail and other short-haul connectivity infrastructure that helps our transportation nodes become even more viable. Sunrail makes economic sense. So does investing to bring rail to the port, which also helps its aerospace industry throughout the state. Space Florida clearly is a big part of, and our spaceport systems are a big part of that interconnectivity. And our aerospace industry stands to grow and thrive when that interconnectivity is improved statewide. Space Florida recently completed a statewide Florida Spaceport Systems Plan, which lays out a strategy for the development and growth of this industry and all of its emerging market sectors. Its anchor elements are the Cape Canaveral Spaceport Complex here, as well as the FAA-licensed commercial spaceport in Jacksonville. But other spaceport and supporting infrastructure in other areas of the state are also planned. We have history, and our plan for the future is good, but we are not alone. Virginia, New Mexico, California, Texas, and some 14 other states covet what we have had in the past 50 years. In my board meeting a few weeks ago, I closed the meeting with a video called Space, We Are Not Alone. I'm sure many of my board members thought that we were going to see a video about alien beings on other planets or UFOs. But it was a video featuring the airport director for the Texas airport system, talking about space in Texas in the next 50 years. Texas alone is going after 4 spaceports, and one of them is at Ellington Field to capture the emerging horizontal launch market represented by such companies as Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic and others. We are going after that same marketplace with a vengeance, and our ability to commercialize the shuttle landing facility and take advantage of other capabilities at Jacksonville and other areas in the state will allow us to do that. Space Florida is also looking ahead and making investments to prepare our state for the future. As a state, we have much to offer this industry. The Air Force has 2 active pads with significant support capabilities and is planning on an average of 13 to 15 launches a year from the Cape. NASA has 2 inactive pads currently, but is preparing for the next generation of space activity, especially related to space exploration, which will also bring more than launch and is bringing development work and manufacturing work here to the state. Lockheed Martin is building its Orion spacecraft here. Boeing, as I mentioned, is building its CST-100 spacecraft here. And almost every other player that is going after some facet of space transportation is looking at taking advantage of Florida's supply chain and placing some final assembly manufacturing and operations here. Space Florida also has 2 active launch pads and is developing Shiloh as a site for purely commercial use and operations. This is in direct response to what the marketplace is telling us that they want. We are also working, as I mentioned, with NASA to commercialize the shuttle landing facility to position Florida to play and to be a key player in the emerging commercial marketplace. But infrastructure alone is not enough. Today, the space industry is over $300 billion worldwide, with over 75% of that coming from commercial sources, and close to 84% not from infrastructure, but from downstream applications. So we want to make the investments in those key elements of infrastructure and innovation that help us drive applications businesses to the state. People who make use of space assets, especially as they're integrated with most other mobile platforms today, to allow us to develop the applications that result in thousands of high value added companies, high value added jobs, most of those growing at 20 and 30% average, compound average annual growth rates. That is why we invested in the establishment of CASIS, which stands for the Center for the Advancement of Science and Space, which today in Florida has won the role of serving as National Lab Manager, or Lab Manager for the National Laboratory that is the International Space Station. And we succeeded in making Florida the ground node for the ISS. That's why we're also working with UCF, FIT, and other universities to establish fab labs and advanced additive manufacturing here in our state. And that's why we're seeking to stimulate innovation from promising companies through capital formation and prizes. We should leverage every asset we have in the state in those key clusters. Simulation and modeling is one of those, and I know you'll hear a good bit more about that in the next panel. So I believe that we have a future that is bright. There's probably never been a better time to grow aerospace in Florida. We have the right business climate, the right tax structure, an abundant workforce, and with your help, we can continue to invest in key elements of infrastructure so that Florida will play a leadership role in this next generation. We will have a robust role in the nation's next generation space exploration program as NASA's programs take foothold. We will continue to have a significant role in the national space area, and we will be well positioned for the continuing emergence of a vital commercial space program. We cannot rest on our laurels nor on our past, and we are not. And we will continue to make those key investments in infrastructure and innovation, which I call the 3 I's of our future. With that, I thank you, and I look forward to working with you during this coming year.